I think we are go once again, ladies and gentlemen, back in action. It is I'm not sure which episode we're on, 5, 6, Pat. I'm not even sure of the conspiracy.
Don't start counting the episodes like UFC's, for God's sakes.
My bad. All right, this is the Conspiracy Farm. I was always your host, Jeffrey Wilson, and co-host with my boy, UFC Hall of Famer, back cracker, jaw jacker, UFC Hall of Famer, Pat Milicic. What's up, buddy?
Well, Joe Biggs is up, bud. That's what's up.
Joe Biggs on deck. Staff Sergeant Joe Biggs. Man, this guy is everywhere, stacking frequent flyer miles for INFOWARS. Man, like literally, the guy is everywhere covering stuff. A lot of stuff, kind of like what we're doing that the mainstream media is not touching. What we're going to touch on a little bit today, several subjects. One we're going to start out with is Joe Biggs knew a journalist by the name of Michael Hastings, Rolling Stone reporter. He was embedded in Joe's Army unit. Joe is a former staff sergeant in the United States Army. Subsequently, man, Michael Hastings wound up being killed. His car was racing down the street in Los Angeles and kind of blew up. Had sent out emails hours and days before this had happened, kind of warning people and letting people know the FBI is kind of watching me, and if they maybe approach you, get legal counsel. A lot of the kind of suspicion is that the car was hacked, and of course you can go online and find out that this technology is absolutely real. Former National Coordinator for Security, Infrastructure Protection, and Counterterrorism, Richard Clark, even pretty much said that, its intelligence agencies do have this capability, kind of made a similar quote to Huffington Post. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Staff Sergeant Joe Biggs, sorry for that long-winded intro. Thank you, my brother, for coming on.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. So, what was your relationship, with Mr. Michael Hastings? And what are your thoughts on, what happened? Did you buy the official story?
Well, in 2008, I was in Afghanistan in the Coast Province, right on the border of Pakistan, running missions with some special ops guys, some Rangers from time to time, some OGA, which is other government agencies. And we were pretty much keeping an eye on the border, fighting the Taliban coming in and out, trying to bring in more weapons to resupply other Taliban that were deeper within the country. And Michael Hastings got embedded with me in the summer of 2008. And when you're deployed and you're in a high visual unit that is in a lot of missions, does a lot of stuff, and is popular in a sense, they embed reporters from you or with you from time to time. And I'd had reporters embedded with me before, but nothing like this man. This man was, a step above all the others in so many ways. Him and I really connected and became really good friends. And he was there through firefights and, attacks and suicide vest attacks. I mean, the guy was there with us through a lot of crazy, crazy times. And he was able to sit there, maintain his focus, be professional, not run around screaming scared like any other journalist I've ever had. And he was there with a smile on his face, excited, ready to do his job. And that's when I connected with him and saw that this guy was different and he was someone worthy of getting to know and, befriending and, staying friends with throughout, the rest of my life. Well, it gets time to come back home. And my flight leaves before Michael's. I fly back, get into the States. I actually get ready to land into Bangor, Maine, and the Icelandic volcano goes off, shutting down any flights from Europe back over into the States. So Hastings wasn't able to come back home. So he gets stuck over there, and instead Rolling Stone sends him to NATO to meet up with General Stanley. I'm having a brain fart right now. Do what?
Was it General Stanley Clark? Is that correct?
McChrystal.
Crystal, yeah.
Mr. Crystal, okay.
Yeah, it took me a second. So he ends up getting told to go cover this guy. So they're driving around, and he's hearing all this crazy stuff, and none of it's off the record, and he writes a book called, The Runaway General, and does this whole piece for Rolling Stone about McChrystal and, how he openly says that Obama's a, piece of garbage and, doesn't know what he's talking about. And that whole thing spirals out of control. McChrystal gets basically fired as the commanding general of NATO forces in Afghanistan. And needless to say, Michael Hastings begins to start getting death threats. And his life becomes very strange. And he would call me from time to time. At this point in time, I'm now not at Fort Bragg. I'm in El Paso at Fort Bliss at 1st Armored Division. And I remember him calling me when I was outside, actually walking down the street one day, and he was just telling me about how, he's been getting harassed and threats and this and that. And, do I think from a military point of view, since I've worked with those kind of people, do I think they would do anything? And I told him if I was him, I would be scared out of my mind because those people don't play around. And especially when you get someone like that fired, you're not just getting him fired. You're getting all the people who have ever been with him throughout his career that he's brought around him. He has like a whole cabinet, so to say. Sure. So you fired like 30 people, and they're all mad at you. And some of these guys are people that can do a lot of crazy stuff. So here we are, June 18th, 2013. So it's almost the 3-year anniversary. The day before, on the 17th, Michael just started acting strange, and I started tweeting stuff out to him. Like he'd sent me some signed books where he'd written things about me or whatever, and I was sending stuff to try to cheer him up. And then a couple hours goes by, and all of a sudden I get an email, and he hasn't responded to my text. He hasn't responded to my calls. I get an email saying, hey, the FBI is looking into me. They might come after you guys as well. I'm going to go off the radar for a while. Love you all. See you soon. Something like that, Mm-hmm. And then a few hours goes by, and I'm already nervous. I'm calling my mom. I'm going, hey, what do you think this means? Should I be worried about it? And a few hours later goes by, and he still hasn't answered my call. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, I just go to bed. And maybe an hour into sleep, and I wake up, and my phone's going off, and a friend calls me and says, Michael's dead. And I'm flipping out. I'm going to the news. I'm trying to find out what's going on. And all I see is footage of his car on fire, and, it's in front of a tree. And I'm sitting there, like, flipping out, panicking. I'm like, what the hell? It's like, I get this email, and now this happens? This is too strange. Like, there's something going on.
Of course.
You don't just, drive erratically at 4 a.m. down the road for nothing. I mean, there's something going on. So as information's coming through, I'm sitting here. I got this email. The email was sent to me and Ben something, I can't remember his name right now off the top of my head, from BuzzFeed and some other people that Michael worked with, and some guys from Rolling Stone, Jason Leopold of Vice. A few of us got this email. And I'm sitting here watching all this information. I'm like, wow, no one's saying anything. No one's who's gotten this email, because I could see all the people that was CC'd on the email. I'm like, no one's saying anything? You're all journalists, and you're not asking questions as to why your friend just died.
Right.
So I started coming out and talking about how this email happened, how he's called me about death threats, and how he was worried. And, next thing you know, here we are. We're investigating car hacking. We're looking at all this different stuff. We finally get footage from, like this TMZ kind of site where you can see Hastings' vehicle driving by. It flashes, and then it swerves to the left, and then it hits the tree and explodes again.
With the engine, in the transmission, 100 yards away. It's kind of
but the engine was 100 yards away in the direction of travel, which was straight down the road, and yet his car hit a tree. So their story is that he was driving fast, then hit a tree, and instead of the car capturing the engine like it does in almost any wreck, especially when you hit an object like that, they're saying the engine jumped out of the vehicle and then was on the same path of travel, completely ignoring the fact that the car blew up first and maybe shot the engine out or got hit by something. And then after that happened, then automatically swerved off to the left. And then when you look at the vehicle damage, it's only the left driver's side where he was exactly.
So what I find interesting about this, and me being devil's advocate here, I've seen NASCAR wrecks where engines fly down the road, and granted they're going 190 miles an hour when they wreck and they flip several times, but it does happen. So that's not out of the realm of possibility. But I would say the getting on the car hacking subject, even on NBC News, 6 months ago they showed that, and I know guys that are agency guys. Just with telephones and email can send you emails or phone calls or text messages from your friend's phone, from their number. It'll come up as their phone and come up to you, and you'll say, it could be from your buddy Joe, and you say, hey, Joe, how you doing? And then they go, this isn't Joe, this is John, I'm just messing with you, and which is a little freaky, to be honest with you. But in terms of hacking cars, that's certainly probably the most likely that would jump into my head. And what was a reporter doing standing around at 4 a.m. filming this anyway?
Yeah, no, he was already sitting there waiting with his camera pointed in that exact direct line of travel.
Yeah. So
well, and it's interesting, like I said, we talk about this in a larger context. Like, if people want to go check out something called the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, it essentially authorizes the United States government to indefinitely detain American citizens as well as assassinate them. And so Pat and I had a discussion a couple weeks ago with Dr. Jack Wolfson on the numerous holistic doctors being killed, bankers dying, microbiologists dying. Holistic doctor just died the other day. So, and then Andrew Breitbart, there's been discussion about his death, and then the coroner's assistant of Breitbart dies of arsenic poisoning. So, ladies and gentlemen, there is precedent for this. We're not just kind of like, conspiracy theorists. There is some substance to this.
Yeah.
So moving on, I mean, I guess not even moving on. So the official version is like that investigation kind of stopped at he just drove erratically and into a tree. That's how this man's basically death is going to be.
Well, I mean, I did research on that vehicle, and that vehicle clamps and it captures the engine. I studied videos for I slipped into a deep, dark hole when Mike died.
I bet.
And I shut everybody off in my life, and I was on the internet all day, every day, researching that exact Mercedes-Benz, the statistics and crashes, high rates of speed. I even looked at the videos of those crashes at the Autobahn at high rates of speed. Not once had the engine's ever been thrown out or anything like that. Then I started looking into car hacking, and I'm talking to Alex Jones at the time. I'm just a regular person. I don't even know who the hell the guy is, actually, because I'm just getting out of the Army.
Mm-hmm. And
I'm sitting here telling people about car hacking, and, I end up going to Megyn Kelly, and she's laughing at me, saying that, I should put on a tinfoil hat. And since that day, I just cannot stand her. She looks like Skeletor to me. But, ever since that day, she just, mocked me. But now it's actual discussion and everyday talk about vehicle hacking and how it can be used and how they're, the NDAA and all this, how they can go after people that they don't like. I mean, it's not few far and beyond. I mean, it's not something that, is science fiction. It's stuff that could actually happen.
When you have videos of DARPA representatives giving little speeches on the very subject of, we can hack cars. I mean, it's just, like I said, it's not a puzzle if you just look for it. Yeah, that's kind of their job to kind of, protect that, narrative of, whatever the official story is. But
yeah, and going back to the Mercedes-Benz too, when he talks about the capturing engines and stuff. Yeah, the Mercedes-Benzes have crumple zones. They're built to deal with horrible wrecks, and so yeah, he's right on spot with that.
Well, yeah, it's incredibly unfortunate, man. Like I said, as I watch these videos, and I'm like, it's such a courageous dude, honestly. I mean, to really do that work and then to meet that end is just, it's scary, because in my mind, like you said, he pissed off the wrong people, and and was killed for it.
And wasn't he investigating Brennan at the CIA when this happened?
He was investigating a number of stuff. I mean, Brennan was actually given the job to whitewash Obama's passports as well. So he was trying to clean that whole thing up. I think Hastings was one of those guys that he was an adrenaline junkie. I mean, he was just like Hunter S. Thompson. I mean, he was the next Hunter S. Thompson as far as his journalism is, not sleeping, always going, always, out there trying to find what's going on, digging into the stuff the grittiest, craziest way to get to the story to find out what's going on.
Yeah, he seemed like the kind of guy that wanted to ride a tornado in a rocking chair or something. The guy was definitely on edge.
Well, I mean, it was cool watching some of these videos. Like, he was about taking the gloves off, man, asking the serious question, because this whole, NSA surveillance, he was like, when it comes to these questions anymore, we've been playing too nice. And he's right, man. So many of these journalists are part of this Operation Mockingbird bullshit. And, and he definitely had the balls to, man, take these people to task, which absolutely needs to continue to happen with more, alternative journalism like you guys are doing over at INFOWARS. And, hopefully me and Pat can do our little bit too.
And I suggest that we all get vehicles that are mid-'70s model so they can't be hacked.
Right. I don't know if they're going to pass emissions, though, so who knows. Any more questions on the hacking there and for Mr. Joe Biggs?
No, I'm good, buddy. I'm good. But we definitely needed to touch on that.
Yeah, very unfortunate situation, and rest in peace, Mr. Michael Hastings. Moving on a little bit to more contemporary stuff, Joe, I guess Pat wanted to discuss, off air we kind of discussed, maybe talking a little presidential politics, a little drug trade in the Middle East. Let's go with the drug trade right now. It is crazy, and it's been going on since, freaking time immemorial, man. French Connection, your Iran-Contra Mina, we talked about it a little bit the other day. What's going on, man? Why are our special forces over there guarding the heroin fields?
Well, I wouldn't even say it's just special forces. I mean, I was at the regular level there for a while, and that's, you get tasked, and the way it comes down to you is as the everyday soldier, you don't know what you're doing. You just get told, hey, we're going to go out here. I need you to stand perimeter around this area while we go have a discussion. And that's how they tell you. It's like you're sitting here setting up a, security perimeter to guard, our commander as he goes in to speak to this elder who happens to be, a drug dealer who owns large amounts of poppy fields and things like that. But at that level, you're just hearing like, oh, we're just here to pull security while these guys have, talks. But then they come out and the commander doesn't look too happy, and now all of a sudden it's destroy that. Or it's, hey, we're going to come out here routinely and check up on these guys and make sure everything's good. If they need any help, we'll give it to them. So it's whether or not these guys are willing to play ball with you.
They come out happy or unhappy and say they haven't, these gentlemen haven't seen any Taliban in the area lately, and you leave.
Oh, no. They go in and say, hey, because our government is one of the biggest shippers of this stuff.
Right.
So we go in.
That's their cover conversation.
Yeah.
Well, and that's real talk too. Like, obviously Hamid Karzai was our guy over there, and like we spoke on in another episode, his brother pretty much got pinched for being the drug overlord in Afghanistan, which just kind of adds to the whole. He's obviously on our team.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of stuff that goes on out there that is very, very crazy, and most people don't open their eyes. They don't pay attention. They play that soldier role so well of just following orders and shutting up and not saying anything. And I was always that kind of person. I didn't have that virtue. I didn't have that ability to just kind of sit there and shut up and just do what I'm told. I always ask questions, and somehow I still was able to get promoted. I don't know how.
Well, now if I'm to assume that basically from the Reagan years, the Iran-Contra stuff where we were funding the South American fight against communism with drug money, so we're basically still conducting Iran-Contra affairs, just using the poppy fields of the Middle East to fund, say, free Syrian armies and groups in northern Africa. So it's still going on.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's just a new name, a new bad guy, just a new location in a sense with certain stuff, that's all.
So then, sorry to interrupt you, Jeffrey, but so once the non-radicals in Syria take out Assad, if they're able to accomplish that, do we then take out those folks? What do we do then?
They're just a means to an end. Yeah, I mean, the whole point is, they've been wanting to put in a Western puppet in Syria for a while and have been unable to. I remember when they were using chemicals and stuff on all their civilians. They were saying, and I actually went on Fox and spoke out against how I don't think that we should send troops to Syria. I don't think that Assad is doing all this stuff. I think we're just trying to make him look bad so we can put someone in that we can use, because we've already got someone in Iraq now. We've got our guy in Afghanistan. Now we need Syria, and maybe one day down the road, which is the end game, would be Iran. But that's going to be a long and hard fight for that one.
Yeah, and the assumption of where it was so set up you could see it when UN inspectors were inspecting the chemical weapons, and 10 miles away chemical weapons get used on Syrian citizens. No, there's no leader of any country, I don't care how crazy he is going to do that in front of UN inspectors, right? I mean, so this was a complete setup.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, and if you go back on the YouTube, General Wesley Clark, it's been several years, and I can't believe he said it. He was talking about a visit to the Pentagon one day where one of his, colleagues pretty much spelled out that we're going to be taking out XYZ countries over the next years, and it was Syria, Iran, Iraq. It was Yemen, all the places that they're going right now. So, the information is there, and if we could just follow it and stop falling for this terror business. Joe, you did a report not too long ago on someone we spoke on, Fethullah Gulen, this billionaire sitting here living in, I think, Pennsylvania,
Yep.
funding this shit.
Self-imposed exile, trying to
Turkey,
avoid
yeah.
being taken out by Erdogan of Turkey. And those guys are both like in battles. I mean, it's amazing how much say Gulen has in Turkey politics and day-to-day life from here in the States. I mean, because the guy's worth billions and billions of dollars. Like, I mean, way up there. I mean, he owns the largest amount of charter schools in the world, and they're still going up. And they teach people, Turkey culture, Turkish culture, and they send these children on these summer camps to Turkey and basically try to indoctrinate them and things like that. I mean, it's completely crazy. And when you actually start reporting on them and doing stuff, the day that I released a video and David Knight released a video, we got hacked. Everything got shut down at our office.
Really?
So
When that's what's so crazy, he's like right under the nose. I mean, he's not too far from Arlington or CIA headquarters. Like, this is happening.
Yeah, but if you actually read all of the papers on this guy, he was actually brought in. He was able to get his passport via the CIA. He is here for their purposes.
Yeah.
that's incredible.
Check it out, folks. Look it up. Fethullah Gulen. It's right under our freaking nose, dude. And our kids are over there freaking dying for this bullshit.
And our kids are being indoctrinated by this radical extremist who is known and wanted as a terrorist in many countries.
Yeah. So based on if Donald Trump says, if he says what he believes or believes what he says, Fethullah Gulen would have a short stay here in the United States if Trump becomes president. Would you assume that to be correct?
I would hope so, and I would make sure that I reached out to him via some of the different people that we know to remind him of that bastard and make sure that they do get him on the first plane out.
First thing smoking, for sure. Well, moving up into that world of 2016 WWE shit show / presidential election, this is crazy, man. This is really kind of crazy. The whole paradigm is shifting, it seems to me, as far as politicians. The freaking RNC seems like it's imploding. What are your thoughts on what's going on right now, man? Is Trump legit, and why do you love Hillary so much?
Yeah, I love Hillary like I love
Joe
him.
Biggs posted a trending hashtag last week. What was it, Joe Biggs? It went
Handcuff Hillary.
Handcuffs.
Yeah, I started by myself because I knew the next day I was going to be interviewing Chris Peranto, the guy who wrote or co-authored 13 Hours and was actually one of the survivors of the Battle of Benghazi that Hillary Clinton and her State Department screwed everyone over and led to the death of Americans. So, yeah, I have a special place of hatred in my heart for her that will be there forever and ever until she's incarcerated, and then there I will be happy.
And it even goes back farther, man. If you get into like the stuff they were doing in Arkansas, man, I mean, just go look it up. The body count that Hillary and Bill left in Arkansas, it's nasty, man. It's quite nasty. So what are your thoughts on Trump? Is he legit? What's going on?
All right, so the Trump thing, first of all, I'm the most non-politically correct person in the world. I will be blatantly honest and tell people what I think, how I feel. If I think you look like you're dressed like a dickhead, I'm going to tell you that. I don't care if you spent all day or 3 weeks preparing that outfit. Sorry, you look retarded. I'll say it. I don't give a shit. And you have the right to be offended, but I also have the right to say that, which is one reason why I like Donald Trump, because he just speaks his mind. Yeah, you might not like it, but guess what? Would you rather that person stand up in a suit and tie in front of that podium and tell you what you want to hear, and then as soon as he steps away, he goes, hey, man, these guys are fucking idiots. I've got them in my back pocket. No, I'd rather you just be blatantly honest and say some stuff that maybe is offensive. But, hey, at least you're laying it all out there on the table. I can see what you're doing, and I can make a decision for myself.
Well, and something he does, like especially the Muslim thing, the not letting Muslims in, I think that sounds so incendiary, but he doesn't say that with the caveat of because our government's funding Islamic extremists. Like it seems like he can't cross that line. Like he can, you know what I mean? It kind of almost is a disservice to him. Like he says such an incendiary thing which people get pissed about. But if he qualifies it, well, guys, I'm not against freaking Muslims or whatever. This is this is Trojan horse type shit going on. Some serious military tactics going on.
When you're running for president, it's not especially this time around. Everything that's ever happened in the past doesn't matter. This is the most unique one ever, and it's going to change politics for the rest of our lives. This year, it's been a dick measuring contest, easiest way to put it. And he's the kind of guy that when someone bullies him or his country that he cares about, he's just going to say what he needs to do and hopefully strike fear in the eyes of the enemy. You know, the Paris attacks happened, and he came out and he said, you know what, we're going to not let these guys in until we vet them. Because the FBI clearly came out that week and said, we don't have a way to vet all these Syrian refugees. So him being the rich billionaire he is, it's always just kind of been brash and says what he wants. He says, you know what, we're going to put a halt on that. Do I think he's going to ban Muslims from coming into the country? No. But he's going to say, hold on, stop, let's assess the situation, figure out what's going on, and then we'll come up with a better way to vet these people and let them in. It's just like if there's a crime scene and a murder happens, you don't just leave it open and let people walk through. You know, you put up the tape, you stop for a minute, you try to get evidence, you try to find out what's going on, get to the root of the problem, then you open it back up and it's regular business again.
Yeah, the thing that worries me about Trump and you know, among other things is, you know, you don't hear Hillary, or Bernie talking a whole lot about the Constitution. I'd almost be afraid to ask him a question about the Constitution in front of a crowd just for fear of potentially embarrassing him. Now, does that say he doesn't know about the Constitution, hasn't read it? I'm sure he probably has, but can he quote anything out of it? I don't know. So I'm a little worried about that, and I would say that he probably would do better in the polls if he were to come out and say, yeah, the American government's been funding extremists, which anybody with one eye and half a brain understands. He honestly would probably go higher in the polls. But to me, what makes me most nervous, even more so about Trump, is it's like watching a train go really fast down a hill. You know the brakes are out. You don't know when it's going off the tracks. But eventually he's going to say something or do something that could cause a serious wreck for himself. And then we've got Hillary.
Which some people say is deliberate, which is kind of some, you know, conspiratorial cynicism think that's the plan, think he's the ringer for Hillary.
I worried about that from the beginning.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a possibility. I mean, I tell you, I go to all these, I've been on the campaign trail now for, you know, a year now. You know, ever since he announced he was in and the whole thing started and they all started going out and going from state to state, I've been going to all these things. And I've been to Hillary events, and they're ghosts. There's like maybe 100 people, 200 people, a Bernie rally. You know, a couple times there's been like 20,000 people. You go to a Trump rally, it's thousands.
They've got her up, what, 4 points over Trump nationally, which is garbage?
Yeah. I mean, but they do that. It's all predictive programming to screw with your head to make they've done such a good job at making everyone so scared of Trump and not sit back and think, why are they making him sound worse when she already has a track record of being worse?
Right.
We already know she's pure evil, and yet you're starting to second-guess yourself about Trump for no reason when the guy has no track record worthy of that. Okay, maybe he's failed a few times in business, but he's also been successful. How many of us could take $1 million and not blow it and turn it into a $10 billion empire and have an awesome family and hire tons of women? There's women, there's people of color all coming out praising him, saying, I've been treated amazingly by this man my entire life. I've never had any racial issues. He was was it Miss Universe? I mean, he had his reality TV show. There was no talks of racism during any of this time. And then all of a sudden, this popular guy who's anti-establishment comes out, and now the media starts attacking him in fear because they know that they're going to get shut down. They know that all these crooked politicians like John McCain and all these people are going to get shut down. They're not going to be able to sit there and continue to have their hands in all this dirt. Now, do I 100% think Trump's the most perfect person? No, but I'm 100% never Hillary. And there's no way in hell that a Senator Bernie Sanders will ever become president because Congress will not let any of his crazy socialistic ways pass do anything.
Well, we should send Bernie to Venezuela so he can stand in line for diapers and food, actually.
Dude, that video I saw the other day is crazy. That grocery store, thousands of people just looting it.
I've got. Here's the thing: I'm getting messages from friends in Venezuela who are begging me to help. They're trying desperately. People are desperate, trying to get out of the country. Their children are starving. They have no water. There's no power. People are losing their money. It is hell there. It's hell there right now, and that's all
think about
socialism.
This.
And I think the state taking over the oil industry pissed off the central bankers, and they're playing games with them also.
But think about this. In 2008, when Hillary ran, what was it, the first time, I believe, she has half as many voters this time around for this election than she had then. So there's no way she's beating Donald Trump, who has had the most votes ever in the history of the GOP. It is BS propaganda.
Yeah.
That's what really pisses me off too. This like blatant cooking of the books too. I mean, it's like I said, I'm pretty apolitical. I'm not a Trump stumper, and I definitely am not down with Hillary. But the shit's just being stolen right in front of our faces. Seriously.
And Putin's a horrible guy for owning the media in Russia, right?
Right. Joe,
I mean,
what do you think about on both?
I'm
sides
voting.
of the
I'm voting for
line?
me and Dan Bilzerian. So
Who?
it's me and Dan Bilzerian. A clear vision for America. That's going to be our campaign.
Hey, you definitely get my vote before any of them other fools, bro. So I mean, like I said, me and Pat have kind of talked about there's this huge kind of divide and conquer, which is by design going on. And like in St. Louis, they had a huge Trump rally that got super ugly, and it's happening everywhere. It's not just Trump people. It's not. I mean, it's on both sides. People are so viscerally reactive toward each other this political season. What do you think, man? Is that planting some seeds of some larger stuff, social unrest later on down the line? Because we got all this economic stuff, religious strife. This political stuff, is this one big perfect storm that could lead up to something?
I mean, this has been going on since Ferguson. I mean, this is like really what they kicked the whole thing off. When you have a false narrative that gets pushed for so long about an incident, and then it sparks a movement, and then it almost makes a lie worthy of, going out and marching over. The hands up, don't shoot thing was proven multiple times to not be real, even by, people that were there at the site when the whole thing went down. That sparked this whole false movement of a lot of stuff. And yeah, there are some people that go out there with good intentions, but that sparked this whole thing of like, all cops are racist, all white people are bad, there's too much whiteness, blah, blah, blah. But they're there to stop racism. And what you're doing by doing that with Black Lives Matter is you're creating more racism. You're creating a division. I've actually got a whistleblower that's involved in the Trayvon Martin thing that I'm going to be speaking to. It's the first time anyone's ever heard this. And it's going to be coming out here in the next few weeks. And it'll blow your mind when you hear the stuff that the lawyers were saying and going to schools, to all black schools, and promoting a certain narrative that would just blow your mind when you hear it.
Yeah,
people just would rather have this divide and conquer. And you have people like George Soros who are funding these groups and allowing it to happen.
I was just going to say, yeah. Yeah, like it's exacerbating it. Now, exactly. You get people who legitimately have some, genuine intentions, good intentions about raising, hopefully, awareness on certain issues. But like you said, it gets totally co-opted. It's almost like the Tea Party back in the day. It was an organic movement that totally got, taken over by, big business and big dollars, and then, it gets taken.
Well, and red flags went up for me right away when media, NBC, of course, did the interview with the kid that was with Trayvon Martin when he jacked up the store employee. And then when the kid put his hands up and said, my friend Michael Brown was saying, my hands are up, don't shoot. My hands are up, don't shoot. And I went, here we go, man. Here we go. This is going to get ugly.
Well, then there was people like, that's not him in the convenience store. It was like, dude, you were doing, come on. That's clearly him in the convenience store doing what he did. I mean, it's like, let's just be real about this conversation, man, instead of, denying ourselves what the fuck's going on. The brother, he assaulted the freaking, should he have got shot or whatever went down? I'm not talking about that, but that was him in the damn store, dude. Come on, let's keep it 100.
Yeah, I mean, is there a problem with militarization of police? Yes. Is there a problem with racism within departments? Yeah, but I mean, there's racism on both sides. There's black people out there that can't stand white people and white people that don't like black people. You can't get rid of racism, but I guarantee you, as someone who's been across the entire planet to a lot of places, we have the least amount of racism anywhere.
Absolutely.
It's really not that bad.
But like you guys have said on Alex before, the fluoride in the water is affecting everybody. The shit they're spraying in the sky is affecting everybody. All of this stuff, this economic stuff, is affecting everybody. But they just keep us at each other's throat on this east-west shit, black-white shit, to keep that narrative going while the architecture at the top, just keeps on doing what they do.
Oh, of course, yeah. It's a big magic trick. It's like, hey, look at this shiny thing over here. Meanwhile, their hands back under their sleeve, behind their shirt, doing something else. It's completely and totally sinister.
Man, I swear, I can't even imagine a Hillary presidency, but I digress. It seems to me an inevitability because, and I hate to say that as a pessimist, because they just don't let anomalies like Trump in, right? We see what they do to real talk.
Yeah, Rand Paul and Ron Paul, they were able to derail, but they were both, sorry to say, I'm huge fans of them, big freaking pushovers. Once things get hot, they kind of back down. Rand Paul, you could see in this election, had great talking points during these debates, but as soon as Trump would jump in his face, he just put his head down and just kind of sit there quietly. if Rand Paul would have jumped out with the same intensity that Trump had, but then been an extreme, an intense constitutionalist, which was what you would have needed, he could have completely overshadowed Trump because he's way more smart. He's pretty much just like his dad, all-around great guy. I'd rather have Rand Paul in there.
No, Rand Paul's very, very
he came out.
guy. And yeah, I see where you're going with that, and he definitely needed to be more aggressive and stand his ground and baffle Trump with facts and crush him in front of people, embarrass him in front of
he would have.
in front of crowds. And he's fully capable of doing that. He is a super intelligent man, and I'm not quite sure why he didn't do this. Maybe just not in his disposition, but maybe I need to. I spent a little time with Rand when I gave a couple speeches for him and hung out at a couple spots with him, and maybe give him some MMA lessons or something, toughen him up a little bit and turn him loose again.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see him run again. I mean, he got his feet wet this time around. I know Cruz is already talking about possibly trying again in 2000. What is it? The next go around, 2020. So,
Speaking of Cruz, what are your thoughts on, because that story about him, his dad being affiliated with the Kennedy assassination, he dipped out within 48 hours after that story broke. Do you think there's any validity to that conversation?
I don't know. I mean, I think he screwed himself anyways. I mean, he's too much of a shit talker. He's that slimy kid who, has been in politics since, middle school, running for, free candy in the machines, the snack machines for all students, blah, blah, blah. They voted for him.
I swear Alex had said the day before that he had just hired, Cruz had just hired this PR firm out of, somewhere in Europe or England or some shit that specializes in, mind control or something like that. I forget exactly what that was, but that was literally the day before, 2 days before he dropped out. So I just thought it was kind of weird timing because that story comes out about his dad, then he was out. I thought he was in it for the long haul.
I mean, when I see someone talk, I can generally look at them, their posture when they say stuff, and I can tell if they're being honest. He's a guy that knows exactly what to say. He knew exactly what crowd he was pandering to, and he played that flute. I mean, he played it up and down, and, he's got all these people wooing over him. He's the only true conservative, he's the snaky guy. I mean, he's married into Goldman Sachs. The guy just, he's got that fake evangelical preacher type thing. He goes on the road and sells snake oil and goes on tour just telling everybody what they want to hear. When I see him, I just cringe.
Yeah.
I'm like, ugh.
Well, yeah, that's where he turns a lot of people off. And I think that, conservatives just need to stay away from social issues, man. Just stick to the numbers, stick to the Constitution. If the Constitution didn't say they can do it, we have to somehow start turning the clock back on all these unearned entitlements and all the other garbage. It's just that's where they're losing support. That's where they're losing support. People I think have come to the point where they're like, look, it's social issues. Look, if you want to do something to your own body or with who you want, you're an adult, you're a consenting adult. Go ahead and do it. But besides that, man, Americans just want to know that they're going to have a job, they're going to have a future, they're going to pay their bills, their kids are going to be okay.
Yeah, they definitely, this LGB thing, this whole target, the federal government needs to be nowhere near that conversation.
Right. But,
yeah, I mean, Obama doesn't have the Obama shouldn't be coming in here and making that stuff mandatory. If Target wants to do it, that's fine, but it's my right to boycott them or protest them and not go. But it shouldn't be a countrywide thing. It's just I don't think it should be a federal government, position even getting a marriage or anything like that. It should be a state level.
Exactly.
Let us deal with it.
Exactly. 10th Amendment. Yeah, it's just them overstepping their bounds once again, but people don't seem to get, like Pat said, unless it's specifically enumerated by the Constitution, it needs to go to the states, but people just seem to acquiesce and just give this government more and more power, which it's a slippery slope, as we've seen.
We've been softened up.
Man, this is,
Society's been softened up by everything that's been going on. I mean, look at the politically correct movement that's been going on. That softened everybody up enough to go to now we're going to let men go into women's bathrooms and their locker rooms, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's my issue, is that whole thing. I don't care if you want to be trans, whatever. Be trans species, transgender, trans. If you want to be an Autobot, I could care less. You can walk around in a Transformers uniform all day with paint and nail polish on and pretend you're saving kittens all day from trees. That's fine and dandy, whatever. But when you start sacrificing the safety of the overwhelmingly large population compared to the butthurt feelings of 0.03% of Americans, then I have an issue, because I know that there's evil in this world, and I know that there's bad people that want to do bad things. You know, I'm sorry that you're dealing with this whole trans thing at 0.03% of the population, but guess what? Overwhelmingly, there's more bad people in the world than there are trans people, and there's a lot of sick pedophiles out there. There was a guy this weekend who choked an 8-year-old girl to death in a bathroom, and he was in the female bathroom. Right. He was able to just walk in because no one could stop him. At the time before that, you'd see a guy walk into the women's restroom, you'd be like, "Hey, bro, you going to the wrong spot? Hey, you got a problem?" You walk over, maybe scare the shit out of the guy.
Did that girl actually die? I didn't read where she had died. I read that her mother had gone in and saved her or something, but I didn't know.
Yeah, I'd heard that she got choked to death, but then again, I mean, you know, there's been literally since this whole trans thing happened with Target, there has been at least 10 to 15 cases almost a week where there's been some dude running into a bathroom now, you know, upskirt shots, filming people, doing all this craziness. So
yeah, well, and you know, no offense to Alex Jones, because he's one of my favorite talk show hosts out there. The guy's great. I love him, but Andrew Wilkow is by far my favorite guy. And Wilkow made a great point. He was talking with somebody, and this person was black, and he said, you know, do you support transgenders being able to use women's facilities? And it was a woman. She said, well, yeah, I do. You know, if they truly feel that they identify as a female, that yes, they should be able to use it. And he goes, okay, now let me put it to you another way. And this was beautifully put. Wilkow is so sharp, it's incredible. I love the guy. But he says, okay, take Rachel Dolezal, for instance. Rachel Dolezal identifies as a black person. So if there are reparations payments to African Americans, to black citizens, for slavery, for the wrongs of slavery that goes out to the black community, because Rachel Dolezal identifies as a black American, should she be entitled to that money? And that's when it hit home with this lady, and she went, I get where you're coming from. I get where you're coming from. Mm-hmm. Look, as you just said, Joe, you can identify with whatever you want, but when you start, I've got 3 young daughters, man. If I see a guy walk into the bathroom, I've got a lot to lose. I really do. I've got a good job. I've got a couple businesses. You know, my name's out there a lot. The guy's probably not going to walk out of the bathroom.
And I'll have to co-host a show.
I'm being honest with you. And what my point is we have been softened up by this rhetoric, this garbage that the left has put out there with outlawing words like bum and crazy and criminal and you know, failure. Failure is replaced by deferred success now. You know, let's
participation trophies.
You know, we can't use the word fairy anymore. You know what? I actually use the word fairy quite often, and I'll go ahead and continue to use it until somebody kicks my ass for doing it, and that's not happening.
Deferred success. I love it.
We can't even say foreign food.
Yeah, the pussification of America is in full swing, and it's really kind of global, actually, and it's disheartening to see.
I pretty much show my disdain for politically correct culture with my T-shirts that I wear on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I have a T-shirt that has Hillary with a Hitler mustache. It says Hillary. Another one that says cunt above it. You know, I really don't care, and it's I'm going to continue to do it.
You went to months ago. You went to a Trump rally when you first debuted for Hillary for Prison T-shirt, and everyone thought it said for president at first until you opened it and really saw it. You know, because it was styled like a Hillary for president T-shirt. That was quite the hit. You got a big hit at the Trump rally with that.
Yeah, that was back in August. I did that in front of 20-something thousand people in the entire stadium. It was in Dallas, Texas. The entire stadium went bananas. Everyone jumped up. Pictures were flashing. All the media turned around. Trump's like looking over and pointing at me like it was out of control.
That's awesome. You know, it's like 2 years ago, I was in a Starbucks. I had my infidel shirt on, and the kid behind the counter, the barista, was, you know, look, I can't generally tell if somebody's gay or not, but this kid was definitely gay, and that's fine with me. I don't care. But he looks at me and he says, "Why are you wearing that shirt?" And I said, "Well, just letting them know that you know I'm an infidel." And he goes, "I can't believe you're doing that." And he was offended and started chewing my ass as the customer in Starbucks for wearing a shirt that said infidel on it. And I go, "Look, kid," I go, they're throwing people like you off buildings right now. So I'd really like it if you just get my cup of coffee for me. I'd appreciate that. I'm not here to discuss it with you, okay? But that's this kid. He's so politically correct that he doesn't understand that he's protecting people that are butchering people like him.
It becomes dangerous. People's ignorance, especially in these days, man, it becomes dangerous because,
this new liberalism is way dangerous than radical Islam. Way more dangerous than radical Islam. That I should feel guilty for saying that there's radical Islam because there is a problem with that. Maybe Christians killed tons of Muslims back in the day in crusades. But guess what? They progressives moved on from that and figured out that's probably not a good idea to do that anymore and very unchristian-like. And now we have a group of people that live in this old way of Islam, and they've never changed. They've never progressed in any way, but I'm supposed to progress, and I'm supposed to, change my life and push my culture aside because you guys still want to act like, barbaric, madmen running around cutting people's heads off and throwing, homosexuals off bridges and mass murdering, people and raping women. But then I'm going to be called a sexist if I look at some girl's butt if it looks good. Hey, at least I'm not making you cover up and I'm not throwing you down to the ground and chopping your head off because I think you looked at my buddy's elbow.
Right. Well, and in defense of the Crusades, you got to remember that was in response to, the Muslims invading Europe and pushing them back out. And generally, if you're gonna push invaders out, that generally takes a little bit of brutality. You're gonna have to butcher a few.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but that's the argument that I always get is like, oh, well, Christians in the Crusades. I'm like, all right, well, guess what?
Christians finally defended their land and kicked the shit out of them.
Yeah.
Well, you still have the Inquisition in, the 15th century, Queen Isabella, sending, dispatching the Spanish over to, indigenous areas, basically cutting heads off for not converting. But, we digress. There's plenty of blood that's been spilled on both sides of that conversation, believe me.
Yeah, I mean, religion is one of the leading causes of death.
Right. If not,
I don't care what happened 500 years ago. I didn't live 500 years ago. My kids won't live 500 years ago. They're going to live in the now. So my issue now is radical Islam. That is the threat that I have to deal with in my lifetime. So, if someone wants to say that I'm a racist or I'm Islamophobic because, maybe I suffer from PTSD because I had a guy with a towel wrapped around his head trying to chop my head off. Yeah, I'm going to be a little bit twitchy around people like that.
Right. Well, that's well understood, my friend. Well understood. What do you got, man? You got any more for Mr. Joe Biggs? I know he's got a slide. He's a busy man. What you got for my man, Pat?
I'm solid. He's been fun to talk to. I'd like to sit down with he and Alex sometime and have a beverage.
Have a nice chilly beverage. Sounds good. We have to get down to Austin way to check these boys out. Joe Biggs, you got any final words, my man? What you got coming up, man? I know you're flying all over the place all the time.
I'm flying to Louisville, Kentucky on Friday to receive an award for Second Amendment coverage in the media. So I'm going to be at the NRA thing they have yearly, Friday through Sunday, and then I'm going to the gun industry awards that I'm hosting down at Park City at the Rock Castle Estates in Kentucky. And it'll be some of the top shooters, gun manufacturers, and we go through different weapon systems, test them out, do a review on them, and then give out awards to the company we believe makes the best bolt action, rifle versus the company that makes the best AR platform or, pistol, so forth and so on, innovation stuff. So it'll be pretty cool.
Very cool. Sounds fun.
Got any books or anything coming out?
Do what now?
You have any books or anything coming out, buddy?
No. Maybe one day. One day.
Yeah, Joe, you definitely need to do that. You definitely need to write a book, dude. I would definitely read that bad boy.
I mean, it'd be like trying to make a documentary on the Obama administration while the Obama administration's still going on. So I'm still in my Biggs administration. So once it dies down and I actually have some time and I have a chance to kind of sit back and look at everything, I'll maybe throw something together.
To stop ringing, in other words.
Yeah.
He's a busy man. Like I said, you were in Ferguson twice, dude. You were on the front lines, brother, and that's where I met up with you guys when you guys were here, dude. Seriously doing some serious work, and we all appreciate it, bro. Staff Sergeant Joe Biggs, INFOWARS Reporter, man, thank you so very much for your time, my friend. It's very much appreciated.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, buddy.
Absolutely. Everyone, this has been The Conspiracy Farm with Staff Sergeant Joe Biggs, INFOWARS Reporter, and, of course, UFC Hall of Famer Pat Miletich. I am Jeffrey Wilson. Peace out.